Welcome back to another episode of the Me, Kevin, and Mikey Show. Yeah, today, wow, Rudy Giuliani bankrupt. I mean, we kind of saw that one coming. The poor guy.
Literally the poor guy.
Literally, dude, $148 million judgment. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some recalls that aren't software updates. We'll talk about Tesla, Cathie Wood, Elon Musk discussion, MKBHD. We've got some stuff to cover today. Inflation as well over in the Red Sea, talking about shipping costs skyrocketing in the Red Sea. Container prices were somewhere around $1,900 for a 19-foot container. This is on HouseHack, by the way. $1,900 for a 20-foot container last week. Then they were about $2,400 for a 40-foot container. Now a 40-foot container is costing you about $10,000. So you get about a 4x on container shipping prices. And not only do you have a 4x on container shipping prices, but you've got about a 25% bump on air freight prices as some of the goods that are being shipped through the Middle East are starting to flow through air freight. So prices going up, seeing some inflation, some more data on that over at ehack.com. Mikey, what do you got?
I got Rudy Giuliani filing for bankruptcy, my man.
Man, it looked like I saw he had his net worth written down on his assets written down on his bankruptcy statement of like $10 million.
1 million to 10 million.
Yeah, that's a 1 to
range.
10 ratio. That's insane.
Yeah, his liabilities were between 100 and 500 million.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's generally what's going to happen when you get into these situations. What's wild is it's everybody around Trump that is getting whacked, but he's just Teflon Don, at least up to this point. It's wild. But then that's where everybody, who's a Trump supporter is like, well, because Trump did no wrong. Only everybody around him did. And then, of course, the people who hate Trump are like, it's coming. Well, maybe it never will. I don't know. We'll see. Still haven't heard from the Supreme Court. Honestly, I thought maybe we'd get some kind of like quick response before Christmas. But who knows? Maybe Trump will use it as like a Christmas fundraising opportunity.
Oh, he's already started.
Oh, great!
He started yesterday.
I mean, that's true. I think it was. He started that night the Colorado ruling came out. He was on stage and his staff starts running Colorado ads on Truth Social. It's like he's not even on, and his team's already doing it. Hey, good for them. They know how to run it. I think they just look. What's the negative headline of the day? Make new ad. It's kind of funny. It's kind of brilliant. I mean, it works.
Yeah, his Truth Social, though, all it is just election interference, campaign fraud, or election interference and rigged election, stuff like that.
But that does so well right now.
Yeah.
That does so well for him. Negative news travels so much faster than positive news. We know that. I mean, they say that negative news travels 7 to 10 times as fast as positive news. And so if you can then turn negative news, which is already much more viral, into an ad, you just win on top of win, even though technically you should be upset at the negative news. Should be hurting you. It's pretty wild.
And the algorithms work in favor of that too. Like if I'm scrolling and I see something I agree with, I go like, and then I keep scrolling.
Oh, for sure.
If I see something I disagree with, it's like, let me tell you.
Yeah,
right?
I'll tell you all about how you're wrong and an idiot.
And the algorithm picks up on that and just starts showing it to more people. Yeah, the engagement.
Well, and that's where like Elon mentioned on his interview with Cathie that, we incentivize people posting better content with views. If you get more views, then you get paid more. But the problem with that is better content is not necessarily accurate content. Better content can sometimes be more one-sided, more extremist, more negative, because that travels a lot faster. When you start adding the dose of realism, it doesn't travel as fast anymore. For example, I was talking about the bank term funding program over a little earlier, how we've got an inflection up in this bailout facility. And that sounds really bad, but part of me believes it's people withdrawing money from banks to throw it into the stock market, which, the Fed's bailing out the banks, so you're not so worried about a banking crisis. And people moving their money into stocks or bonds is actually good for people in stocks and bonds. So something that, if you could easily probably make a 20-minute bear video on, and the banks are about to collapse again, everything's going to go to hell. I can't do it. I just don't believe it. But that, even though it's probably bullshit where people will turn that into the biggest bear piece over the next 24, 48 hours as it breaks sort of the bear headlines. You that will get a lot more attention than the realistic explanation. So I disagree with Elon when he says, oh, well, people will be more motivated by the truth. I actually think people are more motivated to leave out the truth so they could have more viral content on social media, which actually does the opposite of what Elon said. I don't know. Am I wrong about that?
You're right. Also, that call was very underwhelming.
What call?
The Cathie Wood, yeah, Cathie Wood and Elon.
I'm very disappointed.
Me too.
I went into that call and I only gave myself 5 minutes, and I was ready probably to talk for like 30 minutes about all the things I wanted to hear on the call. I'm like, I want to hear progress updates on Giga Texas. You know, we went from the highest interest rates at Tesla ever in the lifetime of Tesla in October, highest interest rates ever, to interest rates way lower now. It's a great time to be optimistic. Like Elon can be like, hey, things are better, people buying cars again, we're going full steam ahead on Giga Mexico, we had some concerns, now we don't have concerns anymore. We could have talked Optimus Robot, we could have talked so much. Instead, I feel like we got a recap of everything we kind of have heard from Elon a million times. Lawyers suck, lawsuits suck. I did have funding secured. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that now. It's exhausting. I did think it was interesting, and I want to ask you what your most favorite part was out of that one. But of the things I heard, I did think it was most interesting, not saying I agree with it, but most interesting that Elon said, yeah, I don't pay too much attention to crypto. You know, fiat could be good too. That was wild.
It's kind of a pivot on his part.
Yeah, because, you know, a couple of years ago, it was all, yeah, Doge and, you know, Bitcoin and Tesla's buying Bitcoin. Now it's as long as there's not too much inflation, deflation, fiat's okay. It's like, what? Used to be like the poster child of like, you know, executives who were pro crypto. And now you're, surprised by that.
Out of curiosity, I wonder what Doge is doing.
Nothing.
Well, I wonder if it reacted negatively to...
Oh, during it? Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so that would be within the last 2 hours. Probably not, eh?
No, it's gone up in the last 5 hours. It's gone up about 3.5%, and then nothing really since then.
No, that's so definitely not negative of a reaction there. I think people sort of in crypto. There's been so much bad news in crypto. You kind of just like it just rolls off your back. It's like, oh, whatever. But the good news, on the other hand, it's getting pretty fun. What was your favorite thing in that campaign?
Oh man, I don't know. I had a lot of least favorite things. The questions weren't that good. I was expecting.
I don't
better
think they
questions.
prepared.
Yeah,
I don't think they prepared. I'm very, very disappointed, but I do not think they prepared. There was no direction of the interview. I think the extent of their preparedness was, okay, Brett, you're going to read the disclaimer, and you're going to mention that we might talk about X, the Optimus, and crypto, and whatever else we want to talk about. But then it was like nobody knew whose turn it was to speak. Nobody wanted to talk over anybody else. Nobody would, basically want to keep Elon on topic because there was no topic. I didn't like it. I think a lot of people could have done a lot better of an interview and gotten some really hard. There were no hard questions.
No, they were stroking his ego quite a bit.
There was a lot of that. It almost seemed like, and Cathie bought Tesla yesterday, so it almost came across a little bit as like a, just kind of like a thank you, Elon. We love you, Elon, kind of. Like I thought the questions could have been a little harder there. And I like Cathie a lot. I think she's a great person, but I don't know if maybe she was just really busy or her team or whatever. But even Brett, when he asked his question about, we should be able to reward good content on social, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, give Elon an example. Give Elon an example. Because Elon obviously had no idea how to respond with, because he's just like dead quiet. Like,
he's like, can you give me an example?
Yeah, exactly. And then he ended up asking for an example. It's like, those are things you kind of should come prepared with when you come with sort of like a question like that. I don't know. I was disappointed by that. But maybe somebody else was optimistic or happy about it. I don't know. I didn't hear anybody happy about it. I heard a lot of people leaving me messages saying they're going to go get a cup of coffee and watch something else.
I'm not going to lie. I stopped watching it. Towards the end, I sat through it. I was like, it's going to get good. And then
it just didn't. It didn't. It was like 45 minutes in. There was a question. I can't remember exactly what it was about. It was like Optimus or something. And I saw some comments like, "Oh, here we go. It's gonna get good." And it was like such like, I don't know, false excitement. What's the word for that?
Like disappointment.
There you go. Anyway, okay. What else we got?
All right, let's talk a little bit about recalls.
Oh,
actual recalls.
Yeah, real recalls. That's fun. There was I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was this morning. I woke up and I saw a recall while I was making coffee, And oh yeah, here it is. Honda recalling more than 2.5 million vehicles over potential fuel pump issue. And I replied, software update?
This is Honda?
Yeah.
I've got like 3 other recalls to talk about, and that's not even on the list. So
Now, is that front page news on all the different mainstream media?
none of these were front page news. Literally none of these. So
course not.
yeah, I'll start with, just because Cybertruck is making its rounds with news. GM has recalled the 2024 Chevy Silverado and the GMC Sierra, and it's due to their roofs like falling apart, cracking.
What?
And it's not, at first I was thinking, oh, it might be like excessive use or roughness because they're trucks. No, a lot of these are actually sitting on dealership parking lots ready to be sold, and they're already having issues with their roofs cracking.
Is it like a plexiglass that's, I mean, it's probably like the sun that's drying out whatever the material is and then it's cracking. Like plexiglass does that. Usually, do you have plexiglass roofs? Like what kind of car is this again?
These are for the Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra pickup trucks.
Oh, 2 different pickups. And
Yeah, that's all GM.
Wow, this should be aluminum on top. That's bizarre.
They're definitely not cold pressed steel, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Not Cybertrucks. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. So GM, how many vehicles?
Oh, that's actually a good question. It wasn't that many.
Okay.
Because they
okay.
don't have many of these trucks in the
Okay.
first
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, sitting on the lots. Okay.
But who does have a lot is Toyota.
Okay.
And so they just had a recall for 1.1 million of their cars. And this is across quite a few different models. This is an actual safety concern. It has to do with the sensor in the front seat, because usually if you have if you have a child sitting in the front, the airbags are not supposed to deploy because that could do more harm than good.
Oh, yeah.
The sensor doesn't work. But what I found out is Toyota is going to be notifying owners in February about this recall. I don't know why.
They just get like extra time to maybe they have to come up with a solution or whatever. But it's
That's a good point. You're probably right.
know. But okay, so that's bizarre. So okay, we need 60 days to solve a problem that sounds bad.
It's
What
an
was the
actual
problem?
safety hazard.
Yeah.
If it's a child sitting in the front seat, like that
okay.
could be
Which is a problem.
fatal. Yeah, that's
exactly.
a huge issue.
It's supposed to be 12. What's the limit? 12 before you can get to the front seat?
And like 60 pounds. It's like a weight and age weight.
Weight and age. Okay.
I don't remember what the age was. Or maybe you know what the other reason could be is that they're still dealing with their 1.8 million RAV4 recall from just the other month.
Oh, yikes. How many vehicles? This was 1.12. Wow.
This was 1.12, and then the RAV4s from just a couple months ago were 1.8, and that's for a fire hazard. Could you imagine if Tesla had a recall for a fire hazard?
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Oh my gosh, the stock would tank. And the amount of articles that there would be for a week long. So we've got GM physical recall of pickup trucks, Honda 2.5 million vehicle recall due to fuel pumps, Toyota 1.12 million vehicles recalled due to child safety. And then the RAV4, how many vehicles was that again?
1.8.
1.8 million vehicles recalled, and that was due to fire hazards.
Yeah, it was the low volt battery. They used a smaller one. It didn't quite fit well, so if you drove a little too spiritedly, it could get loose, break some connections, catch on fire.
Wow. And none of these on the front page
I
of the
dug
mainstream.
for all these. I was like, I wonder what other recalls are out there. All of them.
Yes.
And I didn't even see the Honda one.
Wow. That's the mainstream media for you.
Yeah.
And then Tesla software update, breaking news front page.
And I've been seeing cases of like people going to Mercedes dealerships, and the salespeople will give you the printout of Tesla recalls all their vehicles. They're giving it to potential
Are
customers.
you serious?
Yeah.
Where'd you see that?
All over X. Multiple people have been going to Mercedes dealerships have been getting these.
Oh my gosh.
And it's all like, oh, it's safety. Oh, I told you it's because of that self-driving. It's that autopilot. NHTSA's catching up to the fact that it's unsafe. But
And Elon, that's one thing I actually agreed with in the call with Cathie and Elon was that, Elon likes NHTSA, and I've seen their letters, and we've covered their letters on the channel before, and they're pretty positive about autopilot. I think they realize it's much safer for people to have autopilot than not, and they're looking for improving it. Excuse me. So it's just disgraceful the way the media is covering Tesla. I think it's nice to hate on the new guy or something. I don't know, man.
I think it's not even malicious. It's just, if I say Tesla, I will get more clicks. Like anytime there's subreddits for car accidents and things like that, and it'll be like if a car plows into a gas station, it'll just say car plows into a gas station. But if it's a Tesla, they will 100% of the time mention that it's a Tesla.
Yeah,
it gets clicks.
It gets clicks. Yeah. It's people almost want to be anti-EV too.
They do.
Oh.
I think people are slowly coming around to like, okay, EVs make sense as daily drivers, but I've already been saying I hate Tesla for years, so I'm going to double down on that. I'm okay with EVs, but not Tesla EVs.
Well, EVs used to suck. So in fairness, there's like people still have to get like kind of get unaccustomed to the sucking of the EVs. So yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah.
Okay, well, we do have some bullish signs out there for Tesla.
Okay.
For one, we were just mentioning Cathie Wood. She bought up a bunch of...
She pulled a trade there, man. She trimmed Tesla to buy Coinbase. The darn thing skyrocketed. Now she's trimming Coinbase to buy Tesla. Good for her. She pulled a trade there.
$27.5 million.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a nice little amount there.
That's her first purchase in months.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah,
I kind of
the day before her interview.
That's what I was going to mention. I kind of
interesting.
wonder if she thought that her interview was going to like spike the stock, but instead nothing happened.
I mean, then it's almost like, I don't know, that almost, can you pull that off? Is that like, it's not really insider trading. It's
No,
like if you have
that's
an interview.
perfectly allowed.
Yeah, I guess so. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, good for her. Yeah. Either way.
The other super bullish sign I think there is for Tesla. Tesla.
Oh no.
This morning.
No.
With the exception of Tesla, which I believe will struggle next year as it bloomers off the electric rose. Yeah, we nailed it. We nailed it for you.
Tesla to the moon.
Yeah,
Confirmed.
It's confirmed. Oh wow, that's actually great news. That's Jim Cramer thinks that Tesla is going to struggle next year. Breaking news.
I couldn't have asked for a better thing from Jim Cramer today. So.
Thank you for the Christmas present, Jim. Christmas present, Jim. Yes. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting little thing too. It's not quite Tesla, but Tesla adjacent. So Mercedes, they just got this approved. These turquoise lights, they're not quite blue lights. They're not like police lights. But when the car is fully autonomous, these turquoise lights turn on in the front and the back to notify other drivers that the car is fully autonomous in autonomy
that
mode.
is interesting. Okay. Okay. All right. It like is.
Here's what a Tesla would look like potentially
Right.
with them, but this is.
I just wonder, does it make a difference? Like, why do you have to broadcast that you're in autonomy mode? I don't know. Does that is that useful to me as another driver to know that a vehicle around me is in autonomy mode?
Potentially. I've heard a couple of different opinions of this on X. So the pros I've heard, like, when my car's in autonomous mode, it'll do goofy things sometimes. I don't want other people to get mad at me. Right? Prevents road rage.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Sometimes, like, I feel like the car is a little like how should I put it? Sometimes I feel like I'm driving down a road and the car's following the speed limit at like 35, but everybody's going 50, and it's like sometimes you're like, okay, I need to speed up a little bit, but the autopilot's not picking up on like everybody else wants to go faster here, and you're starting to create a little bit of a gap behind you. That could be interesting. But I think if you're an alert driver, you just step on the gas a little bit and solve that. And so, I mean, I generally catch that very quickly because I don't want to bother people, but I see where that sentiment comes from. I almost feel like, oh, sorry, it was autopilot, or like the weird, stopping you sometimes get, like it's going to go turn left and then it's like, oh, it's going to go, oh no, just kidding. It's going to be safe and it's going to wait.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I think it's kind of the same benefit as having the new driver sticker on the back of your car. Just like, please be a little
Student
patient.
driver.
Yeah, the student driver.
Yeah.
But I've also heard the opposite sentiment, which is people already know that they can kind of take advantage of a car that's autonomous. Like, I'll see memes all the time of like, oh, if you need to change lanes, just find a Tesla and cut them off. They'll automatically brake for you. And so obviously that's overridden if your foot's on the throttle.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know if I want to be advertising that my car is autonomous and vulnerable right now.
Yeah. That it also seems like it's just yet another part. It's another light. It's taken away from the margin. I don't want less margin. I want more margin.
Especially, actually, now that you mention it, Mercedes on their lower end cars, I think, they got rid of the amber turn signals for red ones because it saves them 13 cents per light.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, theoretically, it's not just the light, but it would also be another socket. It'd be the wiring to that other socket. Unless you had like a dual light LED, which generally you don't. You either have a colored LED or you just have different colored plastic. See, if it's different colored plastic, it's a second light bulb. It's a second set of wiring to that light bulb, times 2 because there are 2 sides, times 4 potentially if it's on all 4 sides. A separate plastic thing that needs to go next to the red as opposed to one piece. It's now 2 pieces. Again, times 2 to 4 times. Yeah.
It adds up. But now they're adding blue lights, the front and the back.
Yeah, no.
Turquoise, sorry. Blue is reserved for emergency vehicles, for police specifically. So it's turquoise.
Turquoise.
It's turquoise.
Okay. All right.
All right. That's all I got on the turquoise lights.
That is interesting, but I hope it doesn't go mainstream. It's like, every car is going to have turquoise light in the future.
That's true.
Yeah. It's like, how about you have a clown emoji on your car if you don't have autopilot? That's what I want. Like a giant ass clown pops up when you don't have autopilot. Because, yeah, it's much like I want to avoid the clowns. So anytime a clown emoji pops up on like the rear windshield of a car, I'm like, that person's not on autopilot. They're dangerous. I'm going to stay away from the clown. That's the way it should be. Or a giant eggplant would work too.
Oh, the eggplant.
Yeah. Yeah. But then I might get blocked by Michael Burry again.
You still need more eggplant emojis on eHack. I'm looking at it right now.
I know. We don't have any eggplants on there. I'm trying to think like, what could I use? Maybe that could be, I could put like eggplant equals bear.
That's a good idea. But then what would you do for a clown emoji?
Politicians. Oh, it's all a joke.
So here's what I got. I wish I had more AI stuff today because AI has been really fun to cover.
Yeah, it has been. You got to play everybody the song.
The new
McKay
by
one?
the
Do we want to do
McKay. No.
No?
I don't. No.
Yeah, you're
no.
right,
I don't want to make enemies.
Yeah.
But I
So
did have
funny.
fun for a few hours last night with that music AI.
Yeah, it was okay.
That was a blast. I made a song for McKay. I made a song for Ken. I made one for Christian. I'm in this Discord group. I made a song bashing everyone, and it was so much fun.
You should have Grok or whatever roast someone and then turn the Grok roast into a song. You could do that too.
I'll do that after this pod. But the only thing I have today, it's actually, it's not fun news at all. Christian showed me this right before I went live, and so I was like, oh, let me add this. Who would have thought sometimes AI is a little bit racist and sexist?
Okay.
So Rite Aid is in trouble. They've been using AI to try to catch shoplifters.
Okay.
They've been doing this since 2012, apparently. And they have a disproportionately high amount of false flags for women and people of color.
Uh-huh.
So the FTC is not happy.
Yeah, rightfully so.
So, and also like they've been using a third party for this. So there's concerns about privacy for, client information basically, because that's going to a third party. But they're not allowed to use facial recognition surveillance technology for the next 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
5-year ban on that. And they've been doing that since 2012.
2012 through 2020.
Interesting. Women. I'm surprised by that. It's women. I wonder what the statistics are on that. That like shoplifting between men and women, is it because of purses? Like, is the AI targeting purses?
Well, we have pockets.
No, it's true. Yeah, I don't know. That is okay. All right. Well, 5-year ban.
5-year ban.
No soup for you. 5 years. Seinfeld.
And apparently, it says here, I don't fully understand why, but the company said the agreement with the FTC would require approval of the bankruptcy court because they filed for Chapter 11 recently.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Rite Aid and CVS, these companies are so expensive. It made sense when everybody was going to get shots because you'd go buy something, you bring your kid or whatever, and they'd buy a candy or a stuffed animal or whatever. You go there, you buy, razors for twice the price or whatever it is. But now there's so much desire, should I say, to get any kind of vaccine or booster or whatever, mostly because of efficacy issues and then, of course, fears over safety and otherwise. These companies lost a lot of their mojo. And like, why would you ever go to CVS or Rite Aid for food or convenience items when you could go to a Target or a Walmart? You'd save so much money. So I don't know, I've never kind of liked those companies as an investment. But some people swear by them and they think they're a value. And then here you go, Rite Aid goes bankrupt. But
I also worry about like the use of AI technology in these sorts of settings. Like another one I'll hear about a lot is with not just in the tech space, but with jobs in general. AI goes through a lot of the job applications. Because if you're a company that gets thousands of applications per day, like that's going to cost a lot in like manpower,
labor
so to
hour.
speak. Right.
Yep.
So they'll use AI, but the same things. They'll end up having issues with racism and sexism and things like that.
yeah, that's a problem. I wonder, how is that because of the training or what's causing that? So you kind of have to get to the root cause of that to fix it. And I don't know that anybody knows, or if they know, they don't want to say. That'd be very interesting too.
If I were to guess, it probably, because it would have to look at historic data in order to train, right?
Right.
And so if you're looking at historic data, well, throughout most of history, if you're going into these kind of office jobs, well, there is a demographic that was selected more than other candidates, right? And that's white men.
Yeah.
To be straight about it. So
Yeah, exactly.
the AI is probably trained to look for certain things, and maybe not direct. Maybe it's not going like, oh, this is white male candidate, let's hire. It's
Right.
more of like all the other indirect things that go hand in hand with a white male applicant.
Right. It's like, here are all of the most successful people at our company of the last 50 years. Like, let's say your company's been around for 70 years. Here are all the most successful people at our company over the last 70 years. And they're like, all white dudes, because that's so common. What do they all have in common? Oh, okay. Well, they all came from Kentucky and like barbecues, as an example,
Sure.
right? Well, somebody then who comes from Louisiana might not fit that bill. That's interesting. That's interesting.
To clarify in the comments, no, it's not racist because they were finding who was committing the crime. It was the false flags. It was a disproportionate amount of false flags towards women and people of color. That was the issue.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. If you have false flags like, hey, we think this person's stealing, and it's a white dude, and it flags that kind of person exhibiting that behavior of the white person 1 out of 10 times, and it's a false flag, great. You walk up, hey, what? Oh, you're good. Okay, whatever it is, right? But if it's like, 5 out of 10 times it's women or minorities or whatever, well, now all of a sudden it's like, bro, what? Like, that's just not fair. Yeah.
So anyway, Christian showed me that today, and that's the only AI news I have today.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yesterday was AI cool. Today is AI bad.
Yeah. It changes just like the stock market every day. Ups and downs.
Marquez Brownlee.
Ooh.
He has his phone of the year selected.
iPhone.
Is that your final guess?
Probably
Final answer?
not, but it should be.
It should be. Let's see. Open up X. Oh, it's an Android.
Oh, no way.
The Pixel 8.
He's bought out.
Runner-up, Asus Zenfone 10. Which,
bought out.
If I'm not mistaken, this also runs on Android.
Honorable mention, the iPhone.
And the S23 Ultra, which I have.
Bought out.
Dang. You salty.
It can't be true. What's his reason?
Super bright,
cameras.
120 hertz, upgraded cameras, tons of clever software, and 7 years updates. This one I'm kind of questioning because even if the phone gets updated for the next 7 years, there's no guarantee that the hardware of the phone today is going to be able to keep up with the software of 7 years from now.
Yeah,
and the
that's so
battery's probably
true.
going to need replacement.
Oh,
by
that's
then,
so true. I mean, in like 2 or 3 years, the software we're running is going to make these phones from today seem decrepit. Everything just runs slowly. I mean, we've all seen that and experienced that with phones. Good point.
Good point. Yesterday we had flood alerts here. We had a tornado warning, and I got the notification on my Android. Did you get the notification on your iPhone?
I disabled the notifications on my iPhone.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
Okay.
I turned that crap off.
All right.
I don't want these alerts anymore waking me up.
So if a tornado actually hits the ground, it's my responsibility to run over to your house and evacuate you?
Exactly.
All right. I'll add that to the job description.
I'll fly away while streaming.
Okay, so yesterday people liked the podcast reactions, like we were reviewing.
Yeah, let's do more of those.
Let's do a couple of more of those.
Okay.
So, I'm going to start with the auto-related one, the car-related one, just because we were talking about that first. And then after that, I'll go into Patrick Bet David and that Pakman guy. Okay. So this is Jason Cammisa. I've mentioned him before. He works with Haggerty. It's an automotive channel. They were one of the few to have early access to the Cybertruck. Mm-hmm. He's really I think he's an incredible journalist when it comes to the car world here. And he had a little bit of beef here with this other guy who's from the Smoking Tire podcast. He reviewed Cammisa's video about the Cybertruck, didn't say a lot of really nice things, and even had some accusations. So they actually kind of settled the beef over this hour-long podcast. But there's 2 clips I want to show you. This is a 50-second one, and this has a little bit of edits done afterwards just for dramatic and hilarious effect. But I want to hear your take on this.
See it.
I thought this morning, Matt's going to bring up, they just recalled 2 million cars, right? Fair point.
They did.
They did.
Yeah. All of them sold in America.
All of them. Every one of them.
Every single
Did you know
one.
that in October, think it was October, Toyota recalled 1.8 million RAV4s. And unlike the Teslas, which will be over-the-air updated like that, the RAV4s have to all go into a dealership to get a new battery. We don't report on that because recalls are no big deal until it's fucking Tesla.
Well, I understand the point that you're trying to make.
He just did.
Do happen all the time, and I agree that in the dealership recall is more of a pain in the ass than an over-the-air update. My Mach-E has been recalled for like possibly catching on fire. Like, and I've talked about that.
I thought that
What? Was that his stream? I mean, I know they obviously edited with punch-ins and that.
Yeah.
Was that his actual reaction?
Oh yeah, he said it on that one. I mean, this whole podcast, what I'll give him credit for is it started with him issuing an apology because they're friends. They're in the same space. Yeah. So he apologized for the way he had reviewed the video and like some of the assumptions he had made. So in his defense, he really gave Jason Cammisa here a good chance to rebuttal against everything.
The air. Yeah.
And he took advantage of it and rebutted against everything.
Oh wow. Okay.
It was pretty brutal.
Okay. I mean, this like, I don't even know how it's a fair comparison. It's the difference between a software update and taking your car in is literally the difference between, in my opinion, a recall and a software update. like it shouldn't even be called a recall if it's a software update. It's just like restart the car, leave it off for 30 minutes and restart it. Big deal. It's mind-blowingly different. And anybody who perpetuates that every Tesla got recalled is just being dishonest with their audience.
Yeah, I'm down with coming up with a new term for it too, or if it's like really safety related, then sure. But this one wasn't like it was a babysitting recall.
Recall probably triggers requirements that maybe a generic word wouldn't. But it should there should be some specification like software recall versus hardware recall. Like that would be the way to do it. Software versus hardware recall.
I would be open to that.
Yeah.
I've been seeing there's a photo that's been going around of, I'm guessing it's a Mach-E because it was some kind of Ford that had an over-the-air update, and it basically bricked the car. It said you have to call customer service. Here's the number.
Oh no! Oh, what a pain in the butt.
Yeah. All right, so one more little reaction here with Cammisa.
Would find it interesting, and I did.
I do. I mean, look, no study is ever perfect.
Oh, and for context, this is going over the study we talked about yesterday about how Teslas are the most accident prone.
Oh my gosh.
When I was looking up the sort of data for all this stuff, I was looking at the actual real world deaths per mile traveled per car. Can't find it for recent stuff, so I was able to find deaths per registered vehicle per year per car. And the X3 rear-wheel drive has not a single death. So that is the safest car on the fucking road because you will never
go X3.
I bet a Pagani has a better score. I bet there's been 0 Pagani deaths.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, there are cars that no one has ever died in, right?
Yeah. Has anyone died in a Countach this decade? I think not. Safest car on the road.
I mean, turn the key and the fucking thing explodes. Leaky fuel line.
When was the last time someone died in a Countach? It was probably a long time ago.
But I mean, so we can look at the studies or we can look at the real world stuff. And when I looked the last time was years ago, admittedly, at Tesla's real world death per mile traveled and real world death per vehicle registration, those cars were safe, regardless of ADAS, regardless of crash safety. And by the way, one of the big factors in there is who buys the car, right? Is why Buicks were always safer than Pontiacs, even though they were the same car, because the people who bought Buicks were doing 7 miles an hour, and the people who bought Pontiacs thought they were buying a wide track sports car. And that's marketing, right? And we can criticize the marketing and say, look, this is bullshit. And frankly, we should. FSD is not full self-driving. But I don't think it's our job to project that onto the motives and the missions of the company.
I just liked it because it kind of went ahead with what you said yesterday, which you were analyzing who are the buyers of these cars. And a lot of them were the younger men who they wanted to buy a fast car, and this is the cheapest car you can get for that much power. And so, of course, that's going to skew statistics one way.
Oh, 100%. First of all, I actually would call FSD full self-driving because, quite frankly, when I turn it on, I don't drive. I take over maybe every, I don't know, like once a drive, maybe.
I agree, but so not full self-driving, it's most self-driving.
Well, it's full self-drive. It depends how you look at it. I mean, it's full self-driving for 99% of the drive. And then you get to these areas where you're like, okay, it still needs to learn this. And it's like you're paying attention the whole time, but it's doing all the work. I mean, what would the definition of full self-driving be? Is it full self-drove for the whole time, or it's capable of doing all the actions for the vast majority of the time? Like during the time it's doing it, it is fully driving. I'm doing nothing. I'm sitting there, you know. On the highway, I would call it 100% full self-driving. And then most roads, and it's getting better. Even the last update, it finally stopped cutting off this one bike lane that it always cuts off, unless of course there's a biker there. It just jumps over the line where it shouldn't on a right turn. It finally stopped doing that, and it finally corrected in the latest software update, and it's great. Now I can pretty much full self-drive, which is fantastic. But yeah, if we go to ehack.com and we look at the insurance issue here with this lending tree accident claim, I actually wrote down quite a few stats. You could go all the way down to 8:33 p.m. on the 19th. And we cover some of the differences of how basically you've got, we can plug it in with me as well. Thank you for that. We've got, let's see here. Tesla's predominantly male. 71% of Model S and X owners are male, with 84% of Model 3 owners being male. Yet males make up just 49% of licensed drivers. They have about 1.7 male drivers per female driver per Cox. And the most popular age group, some say the average age of a Tesla driver is somewhere around 34. Some say the average age is 51. Either way, both of these are on the substantially lower end, where Cox says most of your buyers are between 25 and 44. That also happens to be the most accident-prone buyer demographic. So it's like, is it really fair if you take all of the most accident-prone individuals and throw them into one group of cars and then say that group of cars is more unsafe because of the driver? No, it's not fair at all. Now, if you adjust for age and sex, well, Tesla's probably, even their study with a proper adjustment, be the safest car rather than the most accident-prone, as they said.
Okay, so we got a couple of reactions to do, a couple more actually, and I've got two for the Patrick Bet David pod.
Ooh, let's see it.
This one, the context for this one is Vivek.
This is what Van Jones said about Vivek.
In the smug, condescending way that he just spewed.
Well, I'll skip this one. This is CNN's reaction to it.
That's ridiculous. And then this is his response. This is Vivek's response.
So I say that on that last debate stage to a bunch of Republicans that are shaking in their boots. These are the things you're not supposed to say in the Republican Party even today. And then you get the mainstream media. You got this character Van Jones on CNN afterwards saying, this is the rise of an American demagogue who's going to live 50 years longer than Trump. This is dangerous.
That's the video.
I am shaking. That's what he says. Just shut the fuck up.
Wow. I've never really heard Vivek personally.
That's amazing.
Just shut the fuck up.
Wow.
Now, hold on.
Before I get to PBD's reaction to it, what's your reaction to that?
It's awesome. That's funny. I mean, that's good. Good for him.
Patrick but David disagrees with you.
Really?
Let's play it.
I want to ask him, Colby, I want to ask you, but we talked about this in the prep a couple days ago, Patrick. You did it. You're not a fan of that. You're not a fan of Vivek going, like, as a presidential candidate. You're not a fan of that.
I don't know. I think I think there's a difference. Vivek's already making so many strides on how much he's come up. Yes, 2 days ago, he made the most viral video on X for a single day. He had 150,000, 200,000 likes. That thing got 10, 15 million views when he's saying, I'm going to be removing myself from the Colorado, and I'm pledging and I'm challenging my peers, Haley and all these other guys to do the same as well. Where's it at now? Can you 20 million views? Look at that.
Jeez.
16.8 million views, 200,000 likes. He's just sitting there from his, RV saying this. I don't think a presidential candidate should get up there and saying what he said. UFC, MMA, all the other stuff, fine. I don't know if a presidential candidate should go up there and say something like that. I can see how it could rally a young audience if you're speaking to a private young audience, but you have to know everything you say, someone's going to see it.
Yeah.
In today's climate, nobody gives a shit anymore when you're cursing. It's no longer what it was 20 years ago. So I get that part. It's been dehumanized, like it's no longer it's been desensitized than what it was before. I still don't like him saying it.
You don't like, and the only reason I disagree is because at what point, and I know you're gonna agree, like enough is enough. Trump is gonna, God willing, for these 4 years, but when he's done, this is our next product. I'm thinking of the future, but it's like if he's the future, it's like the left, and they're starting it again with him. How long are we going to let them get away with it? Calling somebody evil. Let me explain something to you, bro. This is what he said. And I'm tired of this.
Is any of this, any of the rest of this guy worth it? I'll respond a little bit so far. If you want to scroll around. Look, here's the thing. Patrick Bet-David says Vivek's making strides. He's not. He made strides when he first came out and said wild things, and now he's slipping in the polls. He's way behind Haley in almost every single poll. Iowa poll, Haley's got him doubled. Okay, you look at the New Hampshire primary, not double, not triple, not quadruple. Haley is almost 5.5x his votership. Haley's triple on the Republican national presidential. Haley is over double on the New York Times Republican presidential. On the Emerson, Haley is double for the Iowa. He's not making strides. He was beating Haley when he first came out swinging, when he did that interview with Elon Musk on Twitter. Now he's got to get that attention back. He's kind of lost that a little bit. So this is a way for him to in any opportunity he can, get attention. It's kind of the Trump strategy is I need to do wild stuff to get attention. And that's what you have to do in politics. That's just what it's come down to. So I think Patrick Bet-David's nitpicking a little bit here. He's a younger guy, so he's going to appeal to a younger audience. His plagiarism speech, the one that Patrick Bet-David was talking about here, where he basically pulled some of the script right out of the Colorado Democratic Justice court document, and included that in his video script. That video did well for him, and that's good. And it did well for him because he came out strong with that plagiarized part. But then he did also have a unique take. You know what? I'm not going to go be a part of the primary in Colorado. That's good. Those are the things that get you attention in politics. I think where Patrick Bet-David is coming from is this angle of, well, we don't want a loose cannon running. Well, I think he's kind of already signed himself up for that when he originally came out, because a lot of people have this impression that he's got some very like there are Trump's ideas, and then there are Vivek's, and they're much further down the road. What's interesting, though, is you've seen a lot of Vivek's ideas start resonating in some of the other politicians. Donald Trump wasn't talking about gutting the FBI until Vivek started talking about gutting the FBI. And so I've seen some of the best ideas, or I should say the most popular, maybe not necessarily the best, most popular ideas get absorbed into the other candidates. Now you've got DeSantis talking about gutting the FBI as well. Then Vivek goes, okay, now we're going to go for the Department of Education. Trump starts talking about a Department of Education adjustments. It's very common for a leading candidate to start looking at the most popular arguments of the younger candidate or the less popular candidates and start absorbing just the best ones, like the cream off the top, so to speak. Look, I mean, if Trump's in this election, Vivek's just trying to get attention for a future election or VP-ship, and I don't think this makes any difference. If anything, it gets people talking about him, so fine with me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I do think, that Trump kind of, well, maybe it's before. No, it would have been from around Trump. That kind of position of presidency's been, I don't know, a good word, maybe bastardized a little bit. Mm-hmm. Where it used to be like
more professional. It was supposed to be more like you've got the suit and you're professional. Well, I mean, that all kind of went out the window with social media, I feel like.
I think you're right with that. And I think he's trying to kind of humanize himself a little bit more, make himself a little bit more relatable to the people. I think that's where that came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 100% a relatability ploy. And it's very popular right now to be like, what the hell, mainstream media? And in fairness, there are plenty of reasons to be pissed about the choices the mainstream media makes. I mean, like we were talking about with the Tesla recalls, it's like, what the hell?
Like, why? Why is the Wall Street Journal running a front page piece talking about 2 million vehicle recall? Tesla engineers at Tesla don't believe in full self-driving. They take one quote from a lawsuit where an engineer is testifying, say, hey, like, we still need a driver in the seat. We're not, where we can remove the driver yet. And they use that as a lead story, talking about all these lawsuits against Tesla without mentioning once that Tesla's won 2 massive autopilot-related death lawsuits. Tesla won those, and all the other ones are just still pending lawsuits. So no losses. So Tesla's 2-0, but they run the story with all these lawsuits against Tesla. See, that kind of stuff is disgusting, and Vivek is echoing that frustration of the editorial choices of the mainstream media. And I think he's totally fine to have said what he did.
Let's skip to this other PBD reaction here. This is with Think Media, and this has entirely to do with the mainstream media, as well as they mention X and a couple of other things on here. And there's a little bit of a surprise for you towards the end of this, too.
All right, let's hear it.
Welcome back to the Think Media podcast. I'm sitting here with Patrick Bet-David, and just a few hours ago, we started to kind of rally in Instagram DMs, talk to Mario on his team. Here we are on a private jet. You just got done speaking in Vegas.
Yes.
And we made this happen.
Yes.
For context, this was released yesterday, but this was clearly filmed like almost a month ago, just based on the context of what they talk about.
Yep.
So I'm fired up. You're back on the podcast. We want to talk about Choose Your Enemies Wisely. You got a new book.
Yep.
Want to talk about YouTube, this 2024. What are your predictions and strategies for content creators, business owners? But I actually got to get your opinion. Do you think Elon just destroyed X, formerly Twitter? He told advertisers to go F themselves because they pulled ad revenue because he made some comments that were kind of endorsing an anti-Semitic story, kind of even a pro-Nazi post. He said that he kind of like, if you threaded it, he sort of clarified his thoughts, but nevertheless, do you think he's being flagrant? Do you think it's no big deal? It's all going to blow over? Do you think it was a strategy? What are your thoughts?
So when you're one of one, you get away with things that others don't get away with. Number two, when you have a reputation of coming through and winning and disrupting the marketplace, you have a level of confidence in yourselves that others don't. Number three, when you're doing it for a vision and a cause that's not money, you're not doing it for money. You don't need to be begging people for money. You know how much power there is in the word no? Think about the power of no. Not the power of yes, but the power of no. He's telling advertisers that are telling him to have a certain position, go F yourself. Do you realize, like, for the longest time, these guys are mobsters. They say things like to media like a CNN or an MSNBC or CBS or ABC or ESPN saying, hey, your host the other day said this. He's got to kind of back down a little bit with that. Hey, that guy will pay you $100 million per year. He can't say that again. She's got to take that out again. So these companies are controlled by these advertisers. Dana White the other day talked about what he did with Peloton and this company. We're having a meeting with him here, and he's telling us the story when he brought in Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch. He said there was this other company telling me, hey, you can't say good things about that guy, or else who the hell you think you are to tell me what to do this? It's flipped today. The flip today is advertisers are no longer able to put the fear into these guys with the money that they could control for the longest time because they're showing backbone. Do you know how attractive it is for somebody to have backbone? For somebody to come back and say, no, you can't control me. You can't do this to me. What Elon's been doing, he goes from being the guy everybody admires and they want to go, follow him and be like him. And a year and a half ago, October of last year, he buys Twitter. He starts saying things on Twitter. Then he becomes the most hated man in business. And he can't do anything wrong in their eyes. But a guy like him is going to win and he's going to prevail. And he's going to find plenty of true believers that want to work for him.
I read a headline that said the mainstream media is dying. What shifts do you see happening? You're talking about that. Things are shifting and you're a disruptor yourself. Yeah. What's your opinion?
I love the fact that they're sitting there scared. Do you realize one policy by a president can destroy 90% of mainstream media? You know what this policy is? Let me break it down for you. Watch this.
2:30.
So if all of a sudden the president goes out there and says, hey, American people, do you know how many countries in the world allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise on TV and social media? How many? 2. I didn't know that. Yeah, do you know what those 2 countries are? What? America and New Zealand. Why New Zealand? So Germany doesn't? No.
Canada doesn't allow. No. Italy? No.
You're
Spain.
useless countries.
Why not? Well, because pharmaceutical companies are giving so much money to these media companies, and these media company announcers and hosts and talent have to do whatever they can with these pharmaceutical companies, because if they don't, a lot of the profit of these big media companies coming from who? Pharma, big pharma. So what if a president goes out there and does an executive order saying, moving forward, pharmaceutical companies can no longer advertise, just like, you know what company can't advertise on TV today? They can sell their product, but you never see their commercials on TV. What is it? When's the last time you saw a cigarette commercial? When's the last time you saw a vape commercial? What if a president makes the case and you and I sit there and we're like, you know what? He's got a good point. She's got a good point. Why are we allowing this? Why should we allow him to do this kind of stuff? Why don't you allow the doctor to make the recommendation to me, and I'll take the counsel from the doctor?
Well, I can explain that.
Yeah, go ahead and explain that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I agree with a lot of what Patrick David here is saying. The media, of course, has to appeal to their money source. I mean, this is one of the frustrations that Tucker Carlson had, where he felt like there was a limit to what he could say, as he revealed on the Nelk podcast. He's like, hey, I'm not allowed to say this. I'm not allowed to say this. Of course. I mean, that's like the way it is, and it shouldn't be that way. So Patrick David's 100% right. It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't be afraid of being able to say how you feel. But unfortunately, that is how the mainstream media is. It's a diktat that comes down from the top. And when I ran for governor, reporters lamented to me privately that I want to be able to cover this in a true way, but I'm being told to cover it this way. And so sometimes I just have to read what I'm being told, which is disgusting. Like, it's totally wrong. It's like, it's the opposite of journalism. It's like script reading is what it is. As far as banning pharmaceuticals from advertising, I don't know if that's necessary. One of the reasons pharmaceutical advertising is so interesting is because there are a lot of people with a lot of ailments, and there's a lack of awareness, even amongst doctors, about what drugs could help people with a certain situation. And I only know this because it's relevant to Lauren and us. She has had eczema for a while, and we had no idea that there was this drug that's already been FDA approved for like 7 or 8 years or whatever, called Dupixent, that could really help her. And it was only because we saw an ad somewhere that we're like, well, let's look into it. Let's look at studies. Let's research this. We're like, you know how they're always in the commercials, they're like, talk to your doctor about. So we did. And the doctor's like, yeah, I actually never thought about that one. And then it's like, it's easy to say, oh, well, maybe you should go to a different doctor. But the way the general care system is set up in America is that you don't have specialists. And even the specialists, they don't necessarily know about all the different options that could be good for you, which is sad. We could argue that, well, maybe it's incumbent upon the doctors, but I'd rather be able to take things into my own hands. It's like, give me the information and then let me decide if I like what I'm being advertised to or not. Like, you can advertise anything you want to me. It doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. But if you advertise something good and useful to me, I might buy it. That's the point. I don't see any problem with that. I think advertising is a form of free speech. So I don't think pharmaceutical advertisements should be banned. But I do also think that there are definitely some major mainstream media problems with the way content is provided. And so I think you could solve those problems independently of each other. What do you think of that?
There are parts of what you said I'm going to have to digest for a little bit because I hadn't thought about it that way. But I do also think that, so when it comes to advertising, you're spending a good amount of your budget on marketing. And that's budget that in theory you could be using for research and development or for just taking off the cost of these drugs in the first place.
Yeah, just make it cheaper. Exactly. Because you're paying, like, the consumer's paying for the drug. Like, almost certainly, whether it's us or our insurance agent, somebody's paying a higher price for these drugs because of the billions of dollars being spent on marketing. 100%.
And I'm thinking it would be useful, especially because if there was like a smaller company that came up with a good drug for something, they're not going to have the budget to advertise. It'd be really useful if there was some kind of, even if it's a government-run website, just some sort of database that goes over. Like, I can think of one. There's a really good one for drugs, for illicit drugs, where you can go in and you can do the research on any substance before you've ever touched it, whether it's like a psychedelic or whether it's like something harder. And you could do the research and you can read reports. You could read information about dosages, where you can get all this stuff. It's actually fascinating, the kind of stuff that exists. So if there was something like that for prescription medication and that really lets you pour through the database, get your own opinion on it, I think that's the best way to go.
That would be assuming people are actually going to be interested in doing the research and understanding of the research and are educated. The problem is our school systems are so bad. Probably the vast majority of people would have no idea where to even start. And then do you have to advertise that platform?
But yeah, you probably would. But my counterpoint to that would be then if the people who are not educated don't have any interest in going on these websites, then couldn't you make the argument that these advertisements are specifically targeting those less educated people?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, there's a comment here about cigarettes. You know, if advertising is free speech, then should cigarette companies be able to advertise? I don't have a problem with cigarette companies advertising personally, because I'm never gonna smoke. It's just not gonna happen. Like, I don't care. Spend all the money. Like, I don't care. But the government thesis is, well, we must step in to prevent, you know, somebody who doesn't know about the dangers of smoking from being able to get themselves into that addictive substance. Okay, but then now you're balancing freedoms and government. I mean, that's always the debate. It's
that is
always
the debate.
what's going to be. And then the question is, well, like, if pharma shouldn't advertise, then you know what? No company should advertise, theoretically, right? No company should advertise. Just the best products should go to the top. But then it's like, okay, well, are we going to China, where it's just like, all right, well, we're going to allow those 3 companies to make bread and those 4 companies to make cereals, and that's it. I don't know. It's very difficult then to, you know, without advertising, how do you say that your product is better? How do you let people know about your product? You have to rely on virality, which that's very, very challenging for any startup. If anything, like, let's say you had 10 new startup soda companies that had the greatest soda drinks ever. If there was no advertising, how do they compete with Coca-Cola? Everybody knows Coca-Cola. So, you know, like, you kind of need advertising to break through enough to at least try to get some viral traction, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, you're basically saying that it could become a slippery slope if you don't allow certain entities to advertise. Yeah, but I'd also counter that based on statistics. When countries do ban cigarette advertisements and all these things, the health of the citizens do go up in a measurable way, and that reduces the burden on the healthcare industry.
Long-term costs go down.
Money. Yeah,
totally. And totally all for that. I think we could say the same thing about, hey, if we taught people finance in school, guess what? Maybe we'd have to spend less on welfare and social security benefits in the long term. But there are a lot of things that we could do that would create an ROI, but, you know, the government's something challenging.
Okay.
What else we got?
One more PBD one. This is the surprise one I have for you.
Okay.
It's later in the same interview. He's going to talk a little bit about IPOs and housing, and then the bit that I'm talking about.
You're going to see the IPO market in 2023 is one of the worst IPO seasons we ever had. 2023. Horrible. 2024. You're going to see some IPOs coming out. 2025 on fire. If somebody on the right gets elected as a president, if you remember the day Trump got elected as a president, stock market the next day, boom, skyrocketed way before he even did anything with policies. Today, the left is not happy with the president that they have. The right is not happy with the president that the left has today with Joe Biden. The numbers are not looking good. It's so bad right now that yesterday a governor from Florida who's running for president is debating a governor from California, Newsom, who's not running for office right now. Why are they on the stage? Do they know something the rest of us don't know? This is a very chaotic year, 2024. So how do you capitalize? When COVID happened, what happened all of a sudden? Next thing you know, meet Kevin, 1.5 million subscribers. Wow, this guy's great. Well, who is this guy? Oh, Graham Stephan. Who is that guy? People were popping up left and right, and they were doing daily lives. And here's what's going on. Let me give you an update on this. Let me give you an update on this. 2024, if it's a chaotic year, the talent who is able to react to comments quickly and get creative and start using some of this new AI that's coming out, that's allowing you to import a 3-hour podcast that you did, and this AI spits out your top 20 clips and which one it edits it for you. It puts video over it. It puts captions over it. It gives you a title and a description to post. So what if the guys that are talented people and they have an angle that's different than others and they leverage AI? I think it's a very weird year, 2024.
Christian, why are you shaking over there?
Sure. Yeah, we've tried that app. I think like 19 out of 20 of the clips it does are like terrible. It's kind of like a Pika. It's like expectation versus reality. Yeah. But in the future, it'll be good. But that's pretty cool. It is. I mean, I'm a big believer that my goal is always to provide a different perspective, and not just for the sake of providing for a different perspective, but it's mostly because I feel like I have a different perspective. That's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that clip. That's awesome. What else we got?
Do we have time for a David Pakman one, or should we?
do
kinda
it.
wrap
Yeah, let's hit
Okay, all
Pakman.
right. I gotta balance it out.
We got to balance it out. Yeah.
Failed for.
All right.
Former President Donald Trump gave another one of these sweaty orange rallies yesterday, this one in Waterloo, Iowa. And while denying that he is suffering from cognitive decline,
Oh, no.
he glitched and couldn't correctly say cognitive decline. You can't write this stuff. You really can't write this stuff. Watch carefully, listen in detail.
The only reason I corrected is they'll say, he didn't know his name. He didn't know his name. He must be cognitive, you know. Don't forget, I do most of this stuff without teleprompters. They do.
He must be cognitive. That's the Trump glitch. That's exactly what we're talking about.
I mean, I slip up on words too. I mean, Trump has like a rally every freaking day, it feels like. I say some stupid stuff as well, just as like, oh, I don't know why I came out like that. I don't think I'm like in cognitive. Oh.
I also agree that this was kind of a nothing burger, 'cause that's why I clicked it. It's like, oh, what's this cognitive decline thing?
Yeah.
I misspeak all the time too. Joe Biden misspeaks all the time too.
He also falls. Oh no, yeah, that one's not that great. I wonder. That does rile up Dems though. People love that. Like, well, Dems who hate Trump, because there are Dems who like Trump, and then there are Dems who hate Trump. Like there are Dems who would be okay with Trump. Maybe not a lot of them, but there are some out there. I think that's almost designed to just really, give cannon fodder to the people. Like, oh, thank God, maybe no Trump. Then you know, like that hope, playing into that hope that Trump's going downhill finally. Like, nah, that's nothing. That's a nothing burger.
He does mention something here that kind of goes against what Patrick but David had said. Let me just look up the transcript right here.
Yeah. Trump does, or who does?
No. David Pakman does.
Oh, Pakman versus Bet David.
Yeah.
Oh, they're definitely on economically opposite spectrums as well. I've sat down with both of them before, and I think they're both great people, but they have very vastly different opinions. You know, that would be an interesting matchup, is them two together. Actually, no, Patrick Bet David actually had Pakman on his show. Boy, that was it was intense.
When was that?
Yeah. Oh, boy, it was probably 8 to 12 months ago. It was intense. It was very difficult for Pakman to get anything out. He was getting bombarded. But anyway, all right. So what do we got on this?
So this is the bit right here.
Have right now is the fumes of what we left them. It's coming off the fumes of what we've left them.
Right.
But the stock market is good because a lot of people think we're going to win the election.
The stock market, Joe Biden was going to oversee a stock market crash the likes of 1929. Oh, the stock market's great. Well, in that case, it's because of the fumes of my administration and the expectation of my second administration. By the way, historically, it's not even close. The stock market performs far better when there's a Democratic president than when there's a Republican president.
I looked that up, and it's true.
Is it really? I was just going to say, I'd love to fact check that. So
it was like 16.9% average gains of S&P 500 every year. There's a Republican president versus like 13-something for Democratic presidents.
Wait, so Republican better, or did you flip
No, I might have misspoken.
Okay.
Democrat better.
Democrat was like 16, Republicans 13. Or
13
whatever.
versus 6.
Oh, versus 6.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
6.5, because that's how you get the roughly 10% average on S&P gains per year.
Oh, interesting. Oh, okay. Well, if I had to speculate on why that might be, it would be money printing. Democrats are going to print more money. And that's simple. Most of the time when you print money, you don't actually create inflation, ironically, because we've had 40 years of disinflation thanks not to policy. It's not like money printing is leading to deflation, right? It's money printing is inflationary, but it's just offsetting the deflationary force of capitalism. And so, of course, it makes sense that when the Biden administration is basically buying Intel $250 million, machines to manufacture chips, and Intel's basically getting free money and their stock's up, 50% since we started buying them. Nvidia is getting chip grants to manufacture or design chips in America, or Tesla's getting subsidies to build more power superchargers, or Enphase is getting subsidies to manufacture microinverters in America. All of that is inflationary, but it also helps those stocks out because margin go up, baby. So I mean, like, you want to invest in stimulus checks,
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. In fact, Goldman Sachs just did a piece. I think it was yesterday. I was thinking about making a video on it, but I never did. Goldman Sachs had a piece out. They had a chart, and they put what a basically Republican presidency would mean and what a Democratic presidency would mean. And the Republican presidency side, they were talking about how they would expect cuts to spending for EV, wind farms, and renewables. And there would be more support, though, for nuclear on the Republican side. And so, but the vast majority of the difference was support oil on Republican side or support oil on the Republican side and cut EV benefits or green energy benefits like solar or wind, and Democrats maintain basically. That was the Goldman perspective. I thought maybe I should put that chart up. I have it on my computer at home, but anyway.
There's also, we talked about this yesterday, the other day, there's always these lagging economic factors when it comes to things like this. So it's not necessarily like Biden becomes president, immediately starting that day, everything the market does is in response to Biden. Like, that's not necessarily the case.
So true. I mean, think about marijuana. Everybody thought that Biden was going to nationalize legal marijuana and that all of the marijuana stocks would go to the moon. Biggest disappointment for a lot of stock pickers.
If anything, I'm curious to know about how the stock market does whenever there is a change in party for presidency versus not. I feel like that statistic would matter to me more than just flat how Republicans, affect the market versus Democratic.
Yeah, that's true. Then it becomes a chicken and egg problem too. It's like, did the party change because the economy was bad? Like, I just look at like 2008. You have Lehman Brothers and the collapse of basically the housing market. And then 2 months later, you have an election. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to flip parties, of course. And then Obama gets inaugurated, January 20th or 21st, whatever would be that year.
At the bottom of the market.
Yeah, because the Fed pivots, actually full U-turns like a month later. So yeah, I mean, then it's like, what was it? Was it the Fed pivot or was it the election? Right. So yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, I just found that interesting because Patrick Bidet was talking about like if Trump gets elected, like stock market's going to skyrocket, and maybe it will initially, but long term, I think that has so little to do with the president.
I think that may be what happened during the 2016 election. And it's a little skewed because the stock market also went up after Biden won. And then like 5 days later, miraculously, the vaccines happened to be approved immediately after it was clear Biden was going to win. And then the stock market just exploded. So I think you could find an anecdote in either market on that one. But anyway, what else?
That's basically all I have there. The only last thing I have to share was a text I had with a tenant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah.
A HouseHack tenant?
A HouseHack tenant. So I censored out his name here with my little S Pen here. But I said...
What's an S Pen? Is that a stylus?
It's the stylus for the...
Steve Jobs doesn't like styluses in phones.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Ask him why. Okay.
Dirty.
So... he had a concern with the heater. I had Nick the handyman go and check it out. And I was like, well, you test the heater. Nick the handyman took a look today and says it should be good now. And I actually showed this to Nick today. He goes, yeah, looks like the heater's working. Nick is bad, dude.
It's like, that doesn't sound good.
I looked at this and I was like, okay, I guess bad can mean two things. Bad can mean bad or bad can mean good, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to ask, I was like, bad in what way?
A shocked emoji.
Yeah. Bad as in badass. It's like, oh man, I had a mini heart attack there. Like, what? Nick is a legend. What could he have possibly done?
That's really cool.
So
that's awesome.
I showed that to him today, and the exact same way I showed you, just like one line at a time. And then he said this, and then I said this. And yeah, he gave him a little heart attack today too.
That's freaking awesome. Poor Nick. Oh, it's probably around the same time he texted me. He's like, hey, "Man, can I have a day off tomorrow?" Wow,
all right, that's all I have.
That's
for you
all we
today.
got. All right, do we have a button for this, or am I reading it today?
Licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker. This video is neither personalized financial nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF and hold long positions in various securities mentioned, including potential short positions. However, I have no relationship to any issuers, nor am I presently acting as a market maker.